Hi, and welcome back to Reddit Whispers. I gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. The January air in the car was bone-chill cold, but sweat prickled at the back of my neck. I'd driven this route twice before, but today it felt impossible, like each mile brought us closer to an irreversible threshold. My wife's favorite scarf lay folded on the passenger seat, a red silk square that almost glowed in the gray winter light. I'd bought it for her birthday last month. She wore it every time she needed comfort. I could almost see her wrapping it around her throat, drawing its warmth in. Behind me, the dashboard clock ticked, 8:52 a.m. Our appointment was at 9. The clinic sat on a quiet side street near downtown Manhattan, its brick facade unremarkable, almost anonymous. It was the kind of place you'd pass 100 times and never notice, until you needed it. Now I saw it clearly. Small windows curtained in frosted glass, a discreet sign that read Women's Health and Family Planning. The blood in my veins turned to ice. I remembered the day we first saw them. 5 weeks into the pregnancy, my wife, Emily, had begged me to skip work and join her for the ultrasound. I'd balked. My team was up for a major pitch, yet looking back, how could I have refused? I'd climbed onto that examination table, my heart pounding, as the technician's wand moved over her belly. The screen fuzzed into grainy black and white, then cleared. 2 little sacs, each with a flickering heartbeat. Twins. We stared at the screen in stunned silence. Twins, the tech repeated softly. You have 2 healthy embryos. I felt my chest expand, then constrict. 2. Suddenly the world multiplied. 2 cribs, 2 names, 2 futures. I remember the way Emily's eyes filled, the damp glimmer as she slid her hand over mine. I inhaled the antiseptic air, tasting our exhilaration. We dreamed of children, maybe 2 someday, but we hadn't expected them so soon, and certainly not both at once. Back in our apartment that night, wine glasses in hand, we sat curled on the couch, the city lights flickering through the window. We mapped out our joy, how we'd decorate the nursery, who'd be godparents, how we'd handle parenthood as a team. I felt so certain in that moment, certain we were ready.
Weeks passed. I juggled meetings, conference calls, spreadsheets, but every idle moment my mind drifted to baby A and baby B. I held my phone in my palm and stared at baby name apps making lists. Emily bought books, Multiple Babies for Dummies, Twin Care 101, and left them strewn across the nightstand. I'd sneak glances at her as she read, her brow knotted in concentration. She was glowing, radiant. I was proud of her for carrying our children. Then came the fetal test results. 1 sac measured perfectly, the other lagging behind. The unsure heartbeat had weakened. We'd sat in a doctor's office, the walls pale, the carpet too bright. The perinatologist's voice had been clinical. 1 twin is at risk of vanishing. This can resolve itself, or it can lead to complications for both. He explained the risks: hemorrhage, miscarriage, hemorrhagic shock. My hands trembled as he talked. I felt like I was floating above my body, watching my own horror. We stayed afterward in the waiting room, cold coffee cups and magazines abandoned. Emily's head rested on my shoulder, tears soaking the lapel of my jacket. I wanted to whisper that everything would be okay, that I loved her more than life. But the idea that one of our babies might be gone, my brain short-circuited. I focused on the ultrasound monitor's still image, 2 sacs, 1 flickering strong, 1 faint. I tried to memorize what I'd seen. That evening we shared a bottle of wine in silence. I wanted to reach for her hand, but she turned away and closed her eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're not to blame," I said, but my voice sounded distant, hollow.
We needed time to think. We talked in fractured sentences about options: natural resolution, medical intervention, or terminating the entire pregnancy to save her health. My stomach turned at the words, but each word felt heavier than the last. In late February, after consulting specialists and sleepless nights, we made our decision. I still remember the suffocating January morning when we signed the consent forms. We'd agreed, together, that our priority was Emily's safety and well-being. The doctor would perform a selective reduction, removing both embryos and starting fresh later when we were more emotionally and financially prepared. It was the only thing that felt responsible. A week before the procedure, we met at a cafe, our favorite spot by the water. The sky was gray, but the river shimmered. We sat across from each other, stirring cappuccinos. Emily's hand trembled on the cup. I watched the steam rise from her mug. I wanted to say something witty, comforting, but my mind went blank. Instead, I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "We'll get through this," I said. Her eyes brimmed and she nodded, voice cracking. The day of the abortion arrived. I dropped her off and waited in the car, doors locked, radio off. The clinic's blacked-out windows reflected my face, eyes red, brow creased. I gripped the steering wheel as if it might slip away from me. Every 10 minutes I checked my watch. The only sound was my breathing and the faint rumble of passing buses. When the nurse finally released her, she emerged pale but upright. She slid into the passenger seat without a word. Her eyes weren't on me. They stared straight ahead. I drove home in silence, the city moving past like a nightmare. At our apartment, she went straight to the bedroom, closed the door. I waited in the living room, every second stretching into an eternity.
Eventually, she came out. Her hair was pulled back tightly, her face drawn. She looked at me and the air between us snapped. "I hate you," she spat, voice low and dangerous. "You didn't want to have these babies. You didn't care." I recoiled, stunned. I opened my mouth, then closed it. What could I say? I do care? I wanted them? But the words felt false, or at least too late. She looked away, tears pooling in her lashes. "You never cried," she accused. "You never even wept. I cried every night." My chest tightened. I thought of the nights I lay awake, heart pounding, swallowing back tears so she wouldn't see me weaken. I had pretended to be strong, so strong that she felt alone in her grief. But my silence had stitched a deeper cut between us. She slammed the bathroom door and wouldn't speak again that night. I wandered to the bedroom, sat on the edge of the bed, paper-thin guilt pressing all around me. The red scarf lay crumpled on the dresser. I picked it up, smelled her shampoo lingering on the silk, and realized I'd lost more than unborn twins. I'd lost the trust we'd built. In the days that followed, our apartment felt like a mausoleum. Every time I passed the door to the nursery, walls painted a soft yellow, crib mattresses covered in unblemished white sheets, my throat closed. I'd pluck at the edge of the crib rail as if expecting someone to place a swaddled bundle inside. But it was always empty. Weeks later, at a friend's dinner, I saw her slip off for a phone call. She stood by the restaurant window, voice tight, talking in hushed tones. I glanced down and saw her ex's name flashing on her screen, Brandon. My pulse stuttered. I ordered another glass of wine just to settle my nerves, but I felt like the bottom had dropped out. After that night, I started checking the call log and text history on her phone, surreptitiously, feeling like a thief in my own life. She accused me of spying, of not trusting her. I said it was precaution, that I needed to know she was okay. The truth was darker. I suspected she'd found solace in someone else's arms, while I sat at parties pretending to laugh, holding on to memories of twins that no longer existed.
2 months after the procedure, I came home on her birthday to a party I'd arranged. I'd invited her friends, bought her favorite cake, a banner that read, "Happy 29th, Emily."
She walked through the door, her face brightening at first, then crumpling when she saw me standing stiffly beside a crowd of expectant guests. I thought the surprise would cheer her, but instead I saw shock, then anger. "Why did you set this up?" she demanded, voice cutting. "Why do you care more about party decorations than what I've been through?" My friend shuffled, awkward. I muttered apologies, then she turned on me. "You think you can fix everything with balloons?" she cried. "You think that will wash away the grief you made me feel alone?" I had no answer. The party dissolved into embarrassment. She stormed past me, crying, and I watched her vanish into the bathroom, the laughter and chatter outside growing dim. That night I lay awake on the couch while she slept in our bed. I reached for my phone and typed messages I never sent, begging her forgiveness, promising I'd be different, that I'd share the pain instead of locking it inside. But I didn't send them. Fear or pride, perhaps a mixture, kept my hands hovering above send. In my isolation, doubt crept in. I loved her with everything in me, yet I let my silence become a barrier. I'd buried my grief so deeply she believed I didn't care. And in those lonely months, she'd found an emotional refuge in Brandon Parker, her college sweetheart, and perhaps something more. The seed of that suspicion took root. Every time she said she was meeting friends, my stomach knotted. Every "I'm just grabbing coffee" text made me tense. She noticed my anxiety and accused me of paranoia. I blamed my own insecurity.
One night I confronted her. I checked the GPS on her phone and found her at a downtown cafe at 11 p.m., panic hours. She shut me down. "He was just there for me. He came after everything fell apart." She swore it hadn't gone beyond words and embraces, just a one-time kiss, she said, "I promise." But I didn't know what to believe. The twins we lost and the scars we bore were proof of my buried sorrow. The night she spent alone with him was proof of her search for comfort. Now, as the red scarf lay on the dresser, a once-cherished token turned reminder of my failure, I realized we'd both been unmoored, drifting away while pretending to hold on. And so I sat at the edge of our bed, the party banner from her birthday hanging limp in the closet, craving answers. How far had things really gone during our separation? And was there any path back to the hope we once felt at that ultrasound appointment, when 2 heartbeats lit up the screen? I didn't have the courage to ask just yet. Instead, I folded the red scarf with trembling hands, traced its edge, and wondered if we could ever find our way back from losing those twins, together or apart. As dawn broke through our bedroom window, I made a silent vow. I would uncover the truth, no matter how painful. And when I did, I'd have to decide if our marriage and our possibility of another chance with new life was strong enough to survive the revelation. I woke that morning wrapped in the ghost of her final "I hate you," my head pounding as if it still echoed in the walls. The apartment felt cavernous, shadows in corners where her laughter used to live. I hadn't slept. Instead, I lay on my side of the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment leading up to that explosion. How had we gone from planning nursery decor to planning our separation?
I sat up and reached across the mattress for her phone. I already knew I'd find nothing there. She deleted every trace of brand new messages, every scalding echo of her conversations with Brandon. Still, I needed to try. My belt felt tighter by the day, as if I'd cinched it around my ribs to hold my heart together. I scanned for any hidden folders, any app I didn't recognize. Nothing. She'd covered her tracks with the skill of someone determined to vanish. Wiped chats, cleared caches, even changed her passwords. I felt both furious and impressed by her stealth. By mid-morning, I was in our home office, rifling through our shared laptop. I logged into her email, her credentials still saved, and dug through the trash folder. I found one thread, archived but not purged, titled Study Group. My pulse tripled as I opened it. There, between college friends' banter, I saw her messages to him. "I feel so empty without you. Can we talk tomorrow? I don't know how to get through tonight." My hands shook. She'd claimed he was just a friend after the abortion, that he'd been there emotionally. But these words cut deeper than any physical infidelity. She'd turned to him in my absence, reshaping her grief around his shoulder. I printed the thread, my office printer churning out each word like ammunition. Then I went out for coffee, clutching the pages against my chest. In the cafes, I kept replaying her apology on my phone's notes app. "I'm sorry I couldn't lean on you. I never meant to hurt you like this." But the apology rang hollow when measured against the intimacy of late-night texts. That afternoon, I decided to follow her movements. I parked near the cafe I'd spotted her at 2 nights before. I checked my rearview mirror, no tail. I stepped out and sat at an outdoor table, ordering a black coffee. I watched the entrance, heart hammering. 10 minutes passed, 2, 30, still nothing. I wondered if she knew I was watching, if she'd taken different routes to avoid detection. I felt sick with suspicion and longing, a tangle of emotions that refused to be unpacked. I realized then how easily love and anger could cohabit inside me, how every longing glance toward her empty apartment now carried a sting of betrayal. I finished my coffee and drove home, staring at those printed emails on the passenger seat. Each one felt like a door she'd closed on us and opened on him.
That evening was her birthday. I'd spent days ordering decorations, baking her favorite chocolate cake, arranging friends' schedules so we could surprise her. I'd hoped to reclaim something of our former warmth. I arrived home early, carrying balloons and that red silk scarf I'd given her months ago. I stashed everything behind the living room sofa and rang the doorbell. She answered, dressed in a simple black dress, hair loose over her shoulders. Her eyes widened at the sight of me standing there with cake and crepe paper streamers. For a moment, I thought I'd succeeded, thought I saw gratitude, maybe even relief in her gaze. Then she stiffened. "Why you doing this?" she asked, voice curdled. My heart sank. "I wanted to surprise you," I said softly. "Happy birthday." I emerged from behind the sofa, holding the gifts. I placed the cake on the coffee table, lit the candles, and stepped back. She crossed her arms. "You think balloons will fix this?" she spat. "You think birthday decorations will erase your betrayal?" Tears filled her eyes, but the tremor in her voice was fueled by anger, not sorrow. My friends emerged one by one from their hiding places. Her best friend, my boss, the neighbors who adored us. Their faces fell as they realized the party had become a staging ground for a marriage in flames. I felt their pity like a physical force. She turned away and fled to the kitchen. I chased after her, heart pounding so hard I could barely breathe. She leaned against the counter, arms wrapped around herself, crying. "Do you ever think about how alone I've been?" she screamed. "Do you know how it felt to go through the abortion and have you sitting in the living room like it was a board meeting?" Her words hit me with the full weight of my silence. I opened my mouth to explain, to apologize, but all that came out was a ragged, "I'm sorry." It sounded small, insufficient.
She shook her head and turned to me. "I needed you. I needed you to cry with me, to hold me. Instead, you acted like nothing happened. And when I broke, you chased me down with cupcakes." She looked up at me then, eyes bright. "So I found someone who would let me cry, who let me grieve. Brandon." I felt the cold shock as she spoke his name in the same breath as her grief. She stepped closer, her tears slowing. He stood there and let me sob on his shoulder. He didn't flinch, and for once I didn't feel guilty for breaking. She sniffed. "I didn't even realize I was doing this until it was too late." Her words left me raw. Part of me wanted to curse Brandon for offering comfort she felt I withheld, but another part grieved for the distance I'd created between us, the gulf my stoicism had carved. In a tremor of anger, I shoved the stack of printed emails at her. "Is this how it was just emotional?" I hissed. She blinked at the pages, her mouth dropping open. She snatched them back and stared at the lines, her tears returning. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this." She balled up the pages and flung them onto the floor, where they drifted across the tiles like torn petals. "Do not make this my fault alone." She turned and stormed out of the kitchen, leaving me standing amid a ruined celebration. My friends filed out quietly, offering awkward hugs before slipping away. I watched the apartment empty of laughter, and I realized our home had become a battlefield. Later that night, I packed her belongings into cardboard boxes. Favorite books, soft blankets, clothes lined up like soldiers on the bed. Each item I wrapped felt like another layer peeled away from the woman I loved. I labeled the boxes Emily, holiday decor, Emily, winter clothes, Emily, books, as if tagging pieces of her identity. I left the red scarf on the dresser, folded neatly on top of a box marked accessories. She returned as I taped up the last box. She'd pulled on a wool coat and clutched her purse like a shield. The streetlights outside cast long shadows on her face. She looked at the pile of boxes and back at me, eyes so full of regret that my chest constricted.
"I'm sorry," I said quietly. "I can't do this anymore." She stepped toward me, tears glistening. "Don't send me away," she pleaded. "I never meant to break us." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "I can't trust you," I admitted. "Not right now." I turned my back and continued taping the final box. She stood there for a long moment. Then she picked up her keys and quietly left, the door clicking closed behind her. I collapsed onto the couch, rattled by absence. The apartment was silent but for my ragged breathing. I stared at those empty boxes as if they might speak to me. I realized we'd both retreated into isolation, she into Brandon's arms, me into suspicion, each seeking solace outside the marriage. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, the anniversary of our first date etched on my mind, the calendar on the wall marking days I'd wished away. I opened my laptop and began drafting a letter to her, one I wouldn't send, but it poured out my grief, my shame at not crying, my loneliness as I watched her break, my anger at her betrayal, and my longing for what we once had. I signed it, Tom, then deleted it. I closed the laptop and sank into a chair.
The only sound was the hum of the refrigerator and the distant hum of traffic. I imagined her in a new apartment, surrounded by strangers who offered her a shoulder and bought her coffee. And I realized I'd done the same. Traded my grief for suspicion, my love for a list of demands. By dawn, the letter draft had faded into the computer's trash. I walked to the window, looked down at the city stirring below, and whispered to myself, "What now?" In that quiet moment, I acknowledged that neither of us had been innocent. We were both wounded, seeking refuge, and inadvertently widening the chasm between us. The boxes by the door waited to be moved out. The phone lines between us felt severed. All I could do next was decide whether to seal the door forever or try to rebuild a bridge from the wreckage of our fractured hearts. The rain was still falling when I left my apartment that morning. Stepping into the lobby felt like entering a world I no longer recognized, faces blurred by my own turmoil. Yet I'd agreed to meet her for coffee, 1 month after she walked away on her birthday. A friend had suggested a neutral ground, Sunday at 10, no pressure, just two people who once loved each other, trying to remember how. My hands trembled as I fished my phone from my pocket and texted, "I'm outside Cafe Marlowe." She emerged moments later, hair damp from the drizzle, umbrella tucked under her arm. Her eyes met mine and flickered with that old spark, relief, apprehension, something like hope. She wore my red scarf around her neck, its silk glinting in the gray light. I realized how much I'd missed her presence, how empty the apartment felt without our shared routines. We settled at a corner table, the smell of roasted beans enveloping us like a cocoon. "Thanks for coming," she said, voice low. I nodded and ordered 2 Americanos. I watched her stir the sugar, hand unsteady, and remembered the woman who once laughed at my lousy barista impressions. The seconds stretched as we sat in silence, the only sound the patter of rain against the window. Finally, I swallowed the lump in my throat and said, "I want to understand what you went through." Her shoulders sagged. "I was lost," she admitted. She looked at her coffee as though it held answers. "After the procedure, I felt hollow. You seemed fine, like you'd glanced at your watches and moved on. I cried every night, but I hated that you didn't cry with me. I needed you." She paused, tears filling her eyes. I reached out and covered her hand with mine. "I'm sorry," I whispered, voice thick. She lifted her gaze.
I needed someone to hold me as I died inside. Brandon listened. He didn't judge. He let me cry, something I didn't think you'd ever do. My chest ached. I'd believed being strong meant bearing pain alone to shield her. I hadn't realized strength could also mean being vulnerable together. I see that now, I said quietly. We spoke for nearly 2 hours, unraveling nights of silence and misunderstanding. I confessed my own tears, nights I'd lain awake, imagining her pain, afraid to let her see me break. I explained why I stayed silent, fear of burdening her, fear of looking weak. She listened, her expression softening with each revelation. For the first time in months, we spoke without accusations, only truths laid bare.
As we stood to leave, she surprised me by slipping her arm through mine. The contact felt electric, a reminder of the warmth we'd nearly forgotten. Outside, the rain had eased, leaving a washed, clean street. We walked in silence, neither ready to let go of this fragile closeness. At her door, she turned to face me. "Can we try again?" she asked, voice tender. I nodded, heart soaring. Over the next few weeks, we tiptoed into a new rhythm. We agreed on small rituals, Wednesday dinner at home, Friday morning runs together, and journal entries every night about one thing we appreciated in the other. We attended a couples support group where we sat beside other pairs bearing scars, miscommunication, infidelity, loss, and found solace in shared experience. Every session peeled away layers of resentment, revealing the love we'd buried. I noticed her laughter return slowly, at my dorky impressions and at our daughter's drawings shared via video call. Her mom had been watching her. She teased me about my new tie collection. I teased her about her obsession with succulents. Each moment felt like a brick laid in the foundation of our renewed trust. I found myself allowing vulnerabilities, sending her midday texts about my insecurities at work, asking for her reassurance. She met me in kind, telling me when she felt anxious or overwhelmed. Then came the morning I will never forget. We'd scheduled a routine checkup, an unrelated test, and the technician asked if she might be pregnant again. I felt my breath stall as he adjusted the machine over her abdomen. The screen flickered. Then 2 tiny sacs appeared in crisp black and white. Twins. Our twins. Pain and joy collided in my chest, fear of history repeating itself, and elation at new life blossoming.
The perinatologist nodded, face solemn yet warm. "You're 7 weeks along," she said, "and it looks like twins again." My hand went to my heart, my other pressing gently on her belly. Emily looked at me, eyes shining through tears, and I felt tears sting my own eyes. "Again," she whispered, "again." As we left the clinic, umbrella in hand, I held her close. The world outside felt surreal, rising sun through rain-washed streets, children laughing as they splashed in puddles. I looked down at Emily's soft profile and saw both fear and hope etched on her face. I realized then that this second chance was more than biology. It was a rebirth of our bond. We had lost twins once, the grief still lingered. Now we had a chance to love fully, openly, with no walls left between us. That evening, back at our apartment, we sat at the kitchen table, the ultrasound printout spread before us. I reached across and took her hand. "We'll do this differently," I vowed. "I'll cry with you, I'll grieve with you. We'll build our family together." She leaned her head on my shoulder and nodded, a fragile smile playing at her lips. In that moment, the scars of the past felt both present and distant, reminders of what we'd endured and proof of how far we'd come. New life stirred inside her, and our love stirred anew in our hearts. We closed the blinds against the night and sat in the glow of our tiny kitchen lamp. 2 imperfect people, bound by loss, forgiveness, and the fierce hope that this time our twins would grow strong, just like the bond we'd rebuilt. I sit across from Emily at the kitchen table, the flicker of the overhead light tracing shadows on her face.
We've just finished dinner, roasted salmon, steamed asparagus, and a glass of Pinot Noir to celebrate our new twins. The apartment feels soft tonight, as though we've wrapped it in a blanket of second chances. I clear my throat and ask the question I've rehearsed 100 times in my mind. How far along exactly did the doctor say you are? She pauses with her fork midway to her mouth. Her brow creases. 7 weeks, she replies evenly. 4 days, according to the ultrasound.
Focusing on the glass in my hand. 7 weeks, 4 days. I calculate in my head, that places conception roughly 8.5 weeks ago, around the end of March. We reunited at the start of April. My chest tightens. The numbers don't line up. I force a smile. Okay, just wanted to be sure. She lowers her fork and watches me closely. Do you not believe me? Her voice is soft, but a tremor undercuts it. I swallow, unwilling to meet her eyes. No, I do, My words falter. The kitchen is too quiet, as though listening. I set down the wine glass. I need to understand the timeline. Emily reaches for my hand. Tom, we talked about this. I told you when I yank my hand away, too fast. She flinches. I hate that I made her flinch. I stand and step toward the sink. The water runs cold on my palms when I wash them. I stare at my reflection in the window pane, eyes rimmed pink, worried. How do I trust her when the math says otherwise? My mind whirls back to that night after our breakup, the night I found out about her kiss with Brandon. She'd moved into a friend's apartment, tears in her voice as she recounted the abortion pain. In her vulnerability, she'd invited him over.
They'd said, just a talk, and then something more had slipped across the line. She claimed he slipped a condom on, that it was just once. I'd wanted to believe her, desperately, but the seed of doubt had taken root. I take 2 aspirin, slide back into my chair, and look at her. Emily, if the baby was conceived before we got back together, then it might not be mine. Her face crumples, tears spill free. She stands and crosses her arms. Tom, please, this again? It's not me wanting to accuse you, I say, voice shaking. It's biology. It comes down to dates. She steps closer, voice strained. I swear it's ours. I search her eyes for certainty, but all I see is fear and regret. Why didn't you tell me if something felt off? Why didn't you want to clear this up from the start? Her shoulders shake. She leans against the counter. Because I was terrified of losing you again. Terror makes strange bedfellows with truth. I remember her voice in the car, sobbing, "Don't send me away." And I had sent her away. Now she's here, newly pregnant, newly ours. But the specter of that one night lurks between us.
I stand and pace the apartment, counting steps to calm my racing heart. Each footfall echoes in the narrow hallway. I imagine the moment they did it. I see shadows sliding across a friend's living room floor. Imagine wet polyester of the condom wrapper, the flimsy barrier between fidelity and betrayal. I remind myself that barriers can break. I remind myself that she used protection only once. Statistically, it's unlikely but not impossible. Every unlikely scenario has happened 1,000 times before. I peel my gaze from the floor and look at her, standing small by the kitchen island. I had to ask. The admission tastes bitter. I had to know. She wraps her arms around herself, pressing her palms against her ribs as though shielding the new life within. I understand, she whispers. I'm sorry I never brought it up. Her apology stings. I cross to her, hesitating before I reach out. I brush a tear from her cheek. I love you, I say, voice taut. I want to believe you. The next morning, I can't focus at work. I replay our conversation in the elevator,
in the conference room, even while I'm drafting a client proposal. The numbers blur on my screen as doubts swirl. By lunch, I risk looking at her phone when she leaves her purse on her desk to get coffee. My heart hammers as I open the screen, navigate past emojis and shopping apps, and tap Messages. There it is, a thread labeled B. The last date is 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks after our first reconciliation coffee date, and the preview reads, "Can't wait to hold you." My chest seizes. I take screenshots despite my hands trembling. I tuck the phone back and leave her desk, jaw clenched.
I find a conference room, lock the door, and stare at the messages. The text line before the last preview, "I missed you so much." And after, "Everything will be okay." Nothing about a condom, nothing about regret, just echoing love. I return to my office seat, the beat of my heart deafening in my ears. I can't concentrate. I can't pretend. I need answers. I fire off a message to Brandon, "We need to talk," from my burner phone. I add an address, a small diner on the Lower East Side. No explanation, only a demand for clarity. That night, I drive the rain-slick streets and park in front of the diner. I watch through the rain-speckled glass as Brandon walks in, tall, familiar silhouette. He checks his watch, slides into the booth I've reserved. My stomach twists. I step inside, the bell above the door ringing my dread. He stands as I approach, mask of shock slipping into wary curiosity. "Tom," he says, voice tight. I nod. "Thanks for coming." He sits, arms folded on the table. "You wanted to talk?" I lean forward. "You slept with my wife once. Protected, you say. Is that true?" He blinks slowly. "Protected, yes, and it was just once. I need to know if you use protection correctly. No breakage, no failure." His question bites into his face. He exhales, glances at the table. "We used a condom. I checked. It didn't rip. That night, it was an act of comfort, Tom. Nothing more."
I study him. He seems both earnest and guilty. The diner's neon sign flickers, half blinding me as it reflects off the Formica tabletop. "You know she's pregnant again." He nods. "She told me." I swallow. "Do you think it could be yours?" He shrugs. "I don't know. Protections fail sometimes. I wasn't thinking about biology then. I was trying to be there for her." His words ring hollow. The clinical details stutter in my mind. 7 weeks, 4 days, the date we kick off our renewed relationship, and the night with Brandon. The variables add up and the sums frighten me. I palm the table. "I'm sorry." He stands and leaves. I finish my coffee, tasting bitter regret. Back at home, I text Emily. "We need to talk. At home, now." She appears in the living room moments later, holding our wedding photo in her hands, her eyes sorrowful. I point to the coffee table. On it lie my phone, her phone, and a printed screenshot of Brandon's texts. She takes a trembling breath. "Tom, let me explain." I struggle to find a voice. "When were those messages sent?" She flicks through my printouts. 2 weeks ago. I didn't want to alarm you. I thought I could keep it in check." "Keep what in check?" I press. "You love me," she chokes. "I wanted to protect you from fear. I didn't think about a baby. I only need your forgiveness." I close my eyes, the tears I held at bay crashing down. My knuckles whitened around the edge of the table. "I have to know the truth. Everything." She nods, head bowed. The kitchen feels too small, the glow from the lamp too bright. "I'll tell you everything," she says, voice hollow but resolute. I need you not to leave before I finish." I step back, letting her breathe. The moment hangs between us, charged, fragile. I realize that the road ahead requires more than calculations and confrontation. It demands brutal honesty and the courage to face whatever comes.
I turn to the window, rain pattering against the glass, and whisper, "I'm here."
And there we stand, two broken souls ready to confront the full weight of a single night, a night that may reshape our family forever. I stand by the window, watching dusk settle over our block as Emily gathers her courage. Rain streaks the glass in thin ribbons, echoing tears neither of us can hold back. I turn slowly and study her, pale in the lamp glow, hair damp from hurry, eyes dark with fear. The table between us bears weapons of evidence. 2 phones, printouts, a calendar marked with dates that won't align. "Tell me," I say finally, voice low, "everything." She nods, swallowing hard. Her hands tremble on the tabletop. "I'm so sorry." I wait. Without her words, the silence gouges me deeper than any confrontation. She inhales, eyes brimming. "After we broke up, I was a wreck. I felt alone, abandoned by the person I thought would always be there. Brandon reached out. He said he was sorry I went through that alone. We met once for coffee, just to talk. Then I invited him in." She pauses, pain lancing her features. "We kissed. I never planned for it to go further, but I was desperate for comfort. She breaks off as tears spill free. I close my eyes, picturing her in his arms, the flicker of the apartment light on bare skin. My gut twists. "Please," she continues, voice urgent. "That night, we used a condom. I asked him to wear it. He checked. No breakage. My mind flashes back. Her confirmation on the couch, the crumpled wrapper on the floor. I remember rushing to reassure her, to believe her. But now the math gnaws at me. 7 weeks, a single encounter? "Then," she says, voice ragged, "a week later we texted. It wasn't much, just, 'I miss you. Are you okay?' Nothing about wanting more."
She picks up my phone's screenshot and points. "That message was from a night I was scared the baby was lost. I texted him because he was the only one who answered." She meets my gaze. "I didn't mean to lie. I was ashamed. I wanted to protect what felt real, us. I wanted to be pregnant with our child." Her confession hangs in the air. I swallow, tasting bitterness. My hand trembles as I reach for my own phone. I type, "Order paternity test kit," on my burner app. Then I delete it. The weight of our history presses on me. My voice feels small when I speak. "I need to know." She nods, swallowing. "I understand." She retrieves her phone and opens a notes app. She reads, "I slept with Brandon once, the night I was most broken. It was a mistake I've regretted ever since. I took measures to prevent this from affecting our future. He wore protection. I texted him later, but we never met again after that night. I want you to believe that I never stopped loving you, and I want our babies, our twins, to be yours." Tears track down her cheeks, and I hear the cracks in her bravery. She hands the phone to me. I scrawl, finger hovering. The words feel fragile, like a promise on glass.
I hand the phone back. "Thank you for telling me." I step back and pace the room. 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. My heart throbs, an uneven drumbeat. The question of paternity churns in my mind, but beneath it, a greater question. Can I forgive her, even if the babies aren't biologically mine? I stop and face her. "I could test," I say, voice brittle. "But do you want that?" She bites her lip. "I don't. Because if there's a chance they're not mine, I'll never feel certain love again. And I can't bear that." I consider her words. The paternity test would provide answers, but answers could destroy us, fueling new doubts, or perhaps knowledge would free me to embrace reality. I step to the table and cup her face. "I want to trust you," I whisper, "completely." She leans into my hand. then choose trust. I close my eyes and place my forehead against hers. The rain outside intensifies, a drum of water on the pavement that underscores our moment. My mind races, fear of future betrayals, fear of loving a child who may not share my DNA, fear of losing her again. Yet beneath the fear, a deeper truth emerges, a choice between justice through certainty and grace through faith. I draw back and look at her eyes. I choose you, I say, voice steady but tender. And I choose them, our children, no matter what. Her tears fall and she nods, relief flooding her features. She steps forward and wraps her arms around my waist, burying her face in my chest. I hold her tight, feeling the rise and fall of her breath against my heart. We stand that way for a long time, rain painting the windows, the evidence of our ordeal scattered around us. Then Emily pulls back and wipes her eyes. "What now?" she murmurs. I take her hand and guide her to the couch. We sit, side by side, and I pull a blanket over our laps. I reach for her phone, place it on the coffee table, and push the paternity test app icon to the farthest screen. I delete the browser history of paternity clinics.
This, I say, voice calm but resolute, is our life now. No more secrets, no more shadows. She squeezes my hand. No more shadows. In that moment I feel a shift, a movement from suspicion to partnership. We have no guarantees, only promises, to speak truths, to share burdens, and to choose love over doubt. Later that night we lie in bed, arms entwined. I brush her hair back and press a soft kiss to her forehead. The red scarf I once gave her lies on the dresser, a symbol of the warmth we nearly lost. I wrap it around my fingers, a reminder of how fragile trust can be and how resilient forgiveness can become. I close my eyes, surrendering to sleep for the first time in weeks. Tomorrow, our lives will continue with anticipation and uncertainty. But I know this: in choosing to trust, I have reclaimed my marriage and embraced the possibility of new beginnings. And if, one day, I hold those babies in my arms, whichever their blood, their father will know that love, not biology, defines our family. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you what moment in your life made you see someone for who they truly were. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Reddit Whispers, where the real stories get told.